The man who's been charged with bringing baseball back in Baltimore, winning baseball, Andy McPhail, the general manager of the Baltimore Orioles.
I wore the Oriole pajamas because I would not go to school unless I could wear my Oriole pajamas. That's the story my mother used to tell me when I was in kindergarten, so that was the only way they could get me to go. I grew up here when my first boyhood memories are in Baltimore. I went to Friends School with my brothers when my dad was a GM here. So my first love was the Baltimore Orioles as a kid, one that I never quite completely outgrew. But I'm going to
Just a little closer to you.
just give you briefly, what it is I think we have to do to win. Stan said we haven't won here since 1983. That's true. I think it should be clear now the way the game is today, there are going to be no shortcuts winning in the American League East given what we have to contend with. We have a tough job in front of us, but fortunately we have a great roadmap in the Tampa Bay Rays. They just won the American League Championship. They did it without buying their way in, the way some clubs like to do it. And they really gave us the method that we have to follow to win. And the first and foremost thing, if I could do one thing here and do it well, is we have to have a productive player development and scouting system. It cannot be adequate. It cannot be just okay. In fact, in the past, it really hasn't been okay. That can't be. We cannot win and compete in this division if we're going to rely on free agency or trying to trade our way through it. It just is not going to happen. And there is no, I've been making that speech since the time I came here in June of 2007, and fortunately for me, in some respects, Tampa has just shown us exactly that is exactly accurate and the case. How have we done? You really don't know until the players get here. I can tell you this, things we do know. If you look at the last two amateur drafts, money spent, the only teams that have spent more than the Orioles there are only three teams that have spent more than the Orioles in terms of investing money through the draft. We ranked fourth. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We're making that investment. We're making an investment internationally where we really had no international presence, which is stunning to me because 33% of the players that are in the major leagues are from outside our borders. Whether you like it or not, that's where a third of the players are. So that's where we need to be. And lo and behold, we already have two players, one of them which we signed from Japan this past offseason, and one that we plucked from Mexico on a much cheaper variety. But we're already starting to see a little return in that, much sooner than, frankly, I anticipated we would. But we have to be in there. We have to try. And I've made that clear to our scouting director, our farm director. Look, we're going nowhere if we don't excel at this. The other thing that we are going to focus on is pitching. It's really, and you look at our roster today, you have a hard time understanding how I can say that, but we really need to be a good pitching organization.
Yes, we do.
The investments that we've made, if you look at those top prospects, whether it's Mattis, the best college pitcher in the draft last year, Arrieta, Tillman, who we got from Seattle, they all appear by most independent sources we can get to be in that cream of the crop coming up. And we'll have some unhappy developments. We'll have some pleasant surprises. But we understand that pitching is what it takes. And we have developed capability through computer systems now to measure every pitch that our minor leaguers throw, not just in terms of velocity, but who can throw the most strikes with their fastball, who can throw the most strikes with their changeup, who can throw the most strikes with their curveball, who's the best at finishing off a hitter. And then we can show them. Rather than some coach just droning on about what they have to do to improve, we're trying to find sort of tangible ways to show them that, this is, to really progress up through the system, be successful, you have to throw at least 15% changeups. Even if you're getting by here because your stuff is overpowering, it's not going to work once you get to the big leagues. You're going to have to change speeds. And with that, we've created a new video system that we didn't exist a year ago. These are the type of things the type of investments that this franchise has made that it's sort of invisible, but is absolutely essential to getting us where we have to be. The other thing that we are going to talk about ad nauseum is defense, that you really need to be a good defensive team to win. I go back and I look at Tampa Bay. Well, what are the two things they really improved over from 2007 when they lost 97 games or whatever it was to win in 97? They improved their pitching and they improved their defense. And, you know, if you actually look at it on a run scored per game, the Orioles scored more runs per game than the Rays did last year. But it's the pitching and the defense that got them into the World Series. And that's the model that we're going to have to follow going forward. The other thing that's important to us is character. And that, you know, that's a hard thing to describe, and it's really a hard thing to know about until you sort of live a season with somebody. But character counts, and it counts a great deal for, in a lot of different definitions that you could give that word. You think about the game of baseball, it requires an astounding amount of dedication, focus, concentration. You're playing essentially a game a day for 6 months. You have to prepare yourself physically and mentally to play this game over and over and over again, and it's not the easiest thing to do. I think there's a certain area of character that is required of us and our coaches. Those, you know, to me are kind of the cornerstones of what we're trying to do. You got to develop from within. You got to focus on pitching, defense. You got to look for character, and you got to identify the fundamentals of your business, and you got to do those fundamentals well before you start to stretch on here to the more esoteric type things. And in our business, the fundamentals are developing players. You know, that's got to be the main source of talent through your system. I think that's the roadmap, just like Tampa took before us, that we're going to have to follow so Stan can get off our case for not having won since 1983. I will be up, I'm told, after dinner to answer whatever questions you might have. And I appreciate you guys inviting me.